GOP presidential candidates are right now trying to build off any momentum gained from this week's primary debate as they look ahead to the second debate set for September 27th on Fox Business. For the latest from the campaign trail, we are now joined live by Florida Congressman and Trump surrogate Byron Donalds, as well as Georgia Congressman and DeSantis surrogate Rich McCormick. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me today on your Saturday. We so appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Congressman Donalds, I just want to get this out of the way for folks at home. Will the former president do any debates, you think, even if he becomes a nominee? Do you think he'll go toe-to-toe with President Biden?
Well, I'll tell you right now, once we finish this up, and I believe Donald Trump's going to be the nominee, will he debate Joe Biden? Absolutely. No doubt about that. I think the question is, will Joe Biden debate or will he hide in his basement? I think with respect to the other primary challengers, at some point, I fully anticipate that the president is going to debate. But let's be very clear. His lead is so massive. It was really important for these other candidates to demonstrate that they could even really get on his level. And so I think at some point the president will debate. But right now, he decided that it's not really important right now. And I think you could have saw that from the other night.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that would love to see him on that debate stage. I want to ask you, Congressman, Governor DeSantis raised more than $1 million in the 24 hours after this debate. That was a huge boost for him in his campaign. He's still stuck in second place, though. Pretty wide lead that the former president has. Congressman McCormick, there's been changes in the DeSantis campaign. Does he need to change anything else, or is this the way things are going to go and he's happy with how things are going?
Well, I think time will tell. I think he had a strong debate performance. I think it was a great win for everybody in the debate because you actually got to see people void of the vacuum of things that people didn't want to hear about. They actually got to hear about policy. They got to compare and contrast different leadership styles. Everybody's talking about the debate. I didn't hear much about what Trump said on Tucker. I don't think that's the consequential conversation that happened that evening. I think it was a great opportunity for DeSantis to make a strong opinion on why he's led his state in great ways, why they've extended their lead by 19 points in popularity while taking on some very real challenges. He's able to raise a lot of money. He's got a war chest. He's ready to go. I think in November, if he goes against Newsom in a debate where he gets to compare California versus Florida, the contrast will be real and distinguishable, and he'll show himself as a leader of this great nation.
Okay, let's pull up call for number one because I want to talk about the issue that everyone wants to talk about right now. That's the economy. It is still leading as the most important issue facing this country. It is at 38%, far, far higher than the rest. Immigration, guns, climate change, all of that comes much, much down the list there. Congressman Donalds, the former president has a lot of legal issues on his hands. The court dates, a very busy schedule, it seems like, for the next year. How does he get back to focusing on the issues that Americans feel like they are, in pain over every single day? Gas prices, food prices, the price of everything is up, and it hurts at home.
Well, look, I think what's going to happen is Donald Trump, in a lot of respects, is going to lean on his professional career. Look, when you're in real estate development, you are accustomed to having to juggle multiple balls all at the same time. You got different projects, different timelines. This is going to be no different. His legal team is going to handle the legal stuff, and he'll take care of that. But at the end of the day, the American people know full well that when Donald Trump was president of the United States, our economy was booming and bustling. Every demographic was making money, building wealth, and getting ahead in America. That is the core message of our campaign. And the proof is in the pudding. He has done this job and did it extremely well. Everybody else running, we don't know what kind of job they will do. And we know Joe Biden has done a disastrous job.
Yeah, he's definitely got a resume to lean on. Let me follow up with this really quickly, though, because some of the points that the candidates are making right now on the trail is that Donald Trump may become the nominee, right? He has the lead, almost a 40% lead. It is significant. However, he needs independence, and he might not win the general election. Take a listen to what Nikki Haley said.
3/4 of the American people don't want to see Biden and Trump run again. And the majority of Americans, he is the most disliked politician in all of America. That's reality. And that person can't win a general election.
So that's harsh. Congressman Donalds, how do you respond to that?
Well, the first thing I would say is there's no poll that shows anybody in the Republican Party has any numbers that even are close to Joe Biden right now, except Donald Trump. He's the only one that's right there, and in some polls actually beating Joe Biden. That's number one. Number two, you got to understand, Donald Trump has been pilloried by the Democrats and the crazy media for 6 years now, and he is still standing, still fighting for our country. And Americans are starting to see the difference. When you have somebody who's had the track record of putting America first against the crazy left and the media that does not tell the truth, I think the American people are going to see through that. And when a decision is made between Donald Trump or Joe Biden, I mean, come on. It's not even close. It's Donald Trump all day long.
Congressman McCormick, I'll have you respond, but I also want to find out how the governor plans to win those independents, win those folks that are going to be needed for any GOP nominee.
Well, first of all, realize we're very early. DeSantis is leading in several early states. There's going to be momentum involved with this. If you want to talk about growing popularity, I want to win. I want to keep Congress. I want to make sure we win the House. The person we select to represent us in the primary will have a direct impact on who wins the House. People need to consider that. We also need to consider a guy who they say, oh, he's unlikable. That's not true. He won by almost 20 points after barely winning the first election. His policies work. You talk about the economy being the most important policy issue at hand. He's grown the economy by more than any other state. He's attracted people from all over the United States. While California and New York are shrinking, losing $1 trillion of combined economy in the last 4 years, Florida has exploded, attracted more people with more wealth, has done all the things that make it more Republican, more conservative, and booming. That's what's going to lead us into the future.
Well, you both are right. We've still got a lot of time before Election Day, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.